Good evening and welcome. Oh, it's a Wednesday night, aren't you? Aren't you just mad for it? Well, we have somebody in the house who's mad for it. Karen's in the house. Good evening, Karen. How are you? Well, we'll just let the room fill up a little bit, shall we? We've got 10 people in here, it says. And we got 2 thumbs up, and we haven't even started. We haven't even started. We got 2 thumbs up. Someone's loving it. So, Karen, have you been dogging in? Have you been pushing birds back? Have you been training these dogs? Good evening, Graham. Graham's second in the house. Well, he's not second in the house. It's just second one to say hello. We had. There's got 3 thumbs up now. We got people dropping out. Now we got people dropping in. We got more in and more out. Perhaps it's a bit early for everyone this evening. Keith Shepherd, good evening to you, sir. Steve Morton, good evening to you. Tim Weston, good evening. Peter Piper, evening troops. Don't talk about troops. Don't talk about troops, Peter, please. If you've got anybody got a pager, put it outside. You got a pager, put it outside. Anybody got a walkie-talkie? Put that outside as well. They're sending messages to you. It's amazing, isn't it? When you think about it, it's absolutely amazing. Hey up family, how's it doing? Hey up family, how's it doing? From Julian. It's amazing technology, isn't it, really? How you can get explosives into a pager. And now they're putting it in walkie-talkies. Be careful when you're on the shoot, everybody. You got one of these in your hand, don't strap it to your pants. You might blow your bollocks off. There you go. Hey, bit of good advice from Chris Upton tonight about walking around shoots with walkie-talkies and pagers. World's gone mad, isn't it? World's gone absolutely mad. I can't believe that we haven't. Good evening to Steve Pace. Good evening, Steve Morton. Wifey's in the house. I can't believe there's only 15 people in here. Honestly, I'm just wasted on it. I'm just wasted. I asked Karen a question. He must have just said evening and then fucked off. He's not answered me. That was 2 minutes and 34 seconds ago. I said to him, are you dogging in? Are you pushing birds back? Or have you had your first shoot day today? Hey, has anyone been on a shoot yet? Anybody been on the partridge? Come on, let's have some information. 5th is his first day, says Karen. There you go, eh? 5th. Keith Shepherd last Thursday. He was on partridge, was he? Last Thursday. There you go. Around here, the birds are out, but they're not very big. And can't wait. It feels like it's been forever this year. There you go. All your training for them youngsters. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? I was listening to a podcast with Larry Crow, and Larry was saying, I don't know if it's a podcast, he might have just been making a speech on the internet. And he's saying that all the seminars that he's doing, no matter where he goes, what country he goes to, he's seen so many people with dogs that they shouldn't really have. And if you have not got any experience and you go out and buy a high drive working dog, Mally, or anything else, it's a competition dog, and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to come unstuck, because you need to be truly skilled to be able to handle that sort of dog. And he's seeing more people who've gone out and got these dogs and now having real problems. I've said all along, if you teach a high drive Mallee to bite, rag, and you're not in control of making it a game, but showing leadership, and the dog doesn't respect you, then that's when the wheels are going to fall off big time, with people thinking, I'm going to turn this dog into a protection dog. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to come unstuck. Now, what about gun dogs? Should you be buying the paciest, most driven dog that you can get your hands on, or should you be buying a dog that's biddable? Someone down the road who's got a dog and you've seen it on the shoot and it's not making a noise, it hasn't got a hard mouth, and you've got a little bit of experience. You think, yeah, I wouldn't mind a pop out of that. Or do you go for the dogs that have proved themselves in competition? But how do you know how they've been trained? How do you know with what format they've been trained? And are you willing to go to that level to keep that dog to that standard? Or are you going to allow that dog to take over? I was sharing a old time trainers videos, and we were debating them and talking about them, critiquing them. And he showed a very high drive dog, and he said, this dog's just going to take over. It's got to be, it more or less said, it's got to be in the right hands. It's got to be in the right hands of somebody who knows what they're doing. And yet the dog was frightening him. The dog was frightening him. He was a trial person. So how can the average person have a pop off that and then think, I won't suppress the drive, I won't control the drive, I'll let the dog can get some, start thinking for itself, and then I'll put the control in? You're going to come unstuck, because now society says, no, you can't do that. You can't trigger somebody. You can't upset them. You can't upset a dog. Well, I've been out today with a dog that doesn't hit cover like one of my dogs. One of my dogs of the past would hit cover just for the fun of it, and yet you still need control. If you put your dog in thick cover and you can't see it, you better have control of it, else it's going to be gone. So if you've got a hunting dog and it doesn't really want to go into cover, and the only time it will go into cover if it sees a bird run into cover and it goes after it, how are you going to sort that dog out unless you're going to put it in a hot spot? You're going to put it in a situation to train it. But if you've allowed that dog to front and get away with doing what it wants to do in certain situations, dogs aren't stupid. Dogs will start going, well, there's no scent here, there's no point in hunting. I'll just go through the motions. As soon as it gets on scent, it says, bye, I'm not listening to you. That's how quick the dog learns. Now, you could say, Darren says, won't be working the dog until the end of the season. If I think she's ready, we're not in a rush. I thought the lab was for the lad. I thought it was didn't know it was for a gun dog. There you go. The dog will soon work its new with its new handler, and if they are novice, they will unwittingly put mistakes into the dog without knowing, or the dog will put smart them, outsmart them, and run rings around them. Exactly, and that's the whole point. So if you educate the dog that if you get into cover, you'll find stuff, and the dog has finds in cover and doesn't clear off in the cover because you are using the environment that is right to hunt the dog in, then you can control the environment. You can control the situation. But if you're putting a dog in the beating line and it's not listening to you when it gets on game, and you think it's going to listen to you in the beating line, it's not going to listen to you. So you have to build it up in stages. And what I'm saying this for is I've been building it up in stages for a dog and a client that the dog has taken over the hunting. Now, when there's no game there, the dog's a pussycat. The dog's like, Easy. But when there's game there, all of a sudden the dog says, I'm on it, I'm doing it. And the drive comes up threefold, and the dog wants to do its own thing. So at that point, we have to administrate a negative if you don't listen. Now, if you've got a dog and it's not smashing cover and it's not really wanting to enter cover, if you put that dog on birds in cover for the first time and it doesn't listen to you, and you give it a negative for entering the cover, that dog can pick up a false association. That dog can go, right, I'm not entering cover then because I get punished when I enter cover. You've got to be so careful. If you've got a dog that's smashing cover to pieces and is a naughty dog, you can put the pressure on the dog because the dog is smashing cover to pieces. You can drop the drive on that dog in the cover so the dog listens to you with the discipline. But if you've got a dog that doesn't really want to go in cover and only goes in cover when there's game there, you've got a problem. You've got a problem. Good evening, Martin Lawrence. Good evening to you, sir. I've been out on the 5th of September and out this Friday. I can't wait. That's it. That's what you want. You want that keenness. You want that Steve's out there doing it. I'm telling you, if you can't hunt your dog up a hedge in a little bit of light cover, and the dog go through the light cover, enjoys going in the light cover, stops when you ask it to, listens to you, comes out when you ask it to, you are not ready to take that dog on a shoot, right? If you take a dog on a shoot that's only part trained, that dog's going to get worse, and the whole situation is going to get worse, and then you're going to think, why did I bother? You have to build it up, and it doesn't happen straight away. And that's why I say this time of year is so important for you to go dogging in, pushing birds back. If you can do that, if you've got somebody who lets you do that, you want to think yourself really lucky. Because if you can get onto them birds with your dog before you get in the beating line with all the distractions, all the other dogs, all the other people screaming and shouting, all the other people jostling for position, I want to go picking up. This is my spot. I've been coming here for 20 years. It's like far from the madding crowd at the moment. If you're dogging in, you can see whether your dog is under control. If you're not controlling your dog when you're dogging in at the moment, now I'm not talking about like a keeper's dog. Like a keeper's got a quad and he's got 5 dogs on the back and he just wants to push the birds back towards his pens or back towards his wood, and he lets his dogs out and they all race out and they run alongside the quad and just pushing birds back, and the birds are getting used to going back to the area because these sunny days are great, but that's when the birds start walking. These sunny days and foggy days, that's when the birds come out and start really opening up, and they're beginning to open up and take in ground and be in places where the keepers don't want them. So the keepers are flat out at the moment pushing birds back. And if they've got somebody with a good dog, half the time they don't mind you pushing birds back. But if you've got a dog that's out of control, or you volunteer yourself with a dog with somebody who's got those facilities, and then that dog's got no control, you're going to be upsetting the keeper, you're going to be upsetting the person you're out with. So the idea is you need to go on the outside areas where there's not many birds and not in the hot spots, because if you put a dog in the hot spot that hasn't been trained properly, all it's going to be is like introducing it on a shoot day without it being trained. As simple as that. Julian Lee says, I've seen a few owners bring a dog on the shoot too soon. The environment is too much for the dog to handle, and the handler has been told, get your dog back and don't return. Exactly, Julian. Yeah. Exactly. But we have the other side of it as well, don't we? We also have the gun who is a member of the syndicate, and he wants to take his little dog along, and he wants to work his little dog as well as shoot. and he hasn't got no control over his little dog, and no one tells him because he's a member of the syndicate and nobody wants to upset him. If you've got a good picking up team and you've got a picking up captain and he's watching a dog running around ruining it for others, then he needs to have the bottle and the bollocks to step up and go, excuse me, sir, could you keep your dog under control during the drive because it's creating chaos, right? And like Graham says, the pain gun is often worse. But that's the whole point, isn't it? If you're running a sheep, proper ship shape and Bristol fashion, as they say, then you need a keeper that will back his team, who he's picked to run the picking up team or run the beating line. If you've got dogs in the beating line, they're out of control, then you've got problems because you've got to keep that beat line straight. And so sometimes you don't mind that old guy with a stick with no dog and a number of kids in the line and people just pushing it through gently and standing still and just teasing the birds out. But on occasions, you need a good dog man, and a good dog man is worth his weight in gold. If he's appreciated, he's going to give you a brilliant service, do a brilliant job on your shoot. He doesn't get paid much, but he doesn't do it for the pay. He does it because he loves it. He loves working his dog in that situation. Are you really appreciated for all the hours that you put into that dog? Or is the person with the beating stick just as appreciated as the person with the dog? Now, like someone said on here earlier, I've seen somebody turn up with 5 dogs, all out of control, running around like Edward's chickens. And they're going, I got no control. And you think, well, why don't you go and train them? But if no one is pulling them up, and that's the problem with society these days, isn't it? Everybody doesn't want to upset anybody. Everybody's going to have a wonderful time. The keeper's not going to have a wonderful time. Your dog runs straight through the middle of the drive, gets in the cover crop, and rushes everything with one big flush out the cover crop. You need to tickle it along, don't you? And so, what I say, horses for courses. Horses for courses. And yet you'd be amazed how many people contact me this time of year and go, I've been out with my dog and he's not listening to me. He's pulling me. He's taking in too much ground. What can I do? Oh, you should have been doing stuff. Now, when should you be doing stuff? Because it's another thing, isn't it? During the summer, not many birds around. You sometimes just hunting the dog in sterile environment. That's not educating the dog, is it? So that's where you've got to think, well, okay, who do I know who's got a rabbit pen? Do I go and travel and pay to use a rabbit pen and put my dog in? That's pig in shit, Graham. Who's this pig in shit? Good evening, Graham. Hope you're well. Yes, Stu. Hope you do. Oh, he's like a pig in shit. There you go. Do you know? I wondered if you were trying to trigger somebody then. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, this is the ideal time. You should be out every day dogging in if you're not working or you've got time to get out there every morning for an hour, half an hour to an hour, dogging in with that dog, using the dog in the situation. Now, if you've got no control of that dog and that dog's got that much freedom, guess what comes in handy? Guess what comes in handy? The e-collar. The e-collar is not a thing to be done by an e-collar because I've got my dog and it's out of control. You have to educate the dog, and then you have to educate the dog what the e-collar means. And that's what we're doing with this next series of videos that we're putting up. We're going back. I haven't done e-collar training for a while. We're going back to showing you how to control the dog, condition the dog with an e-collar within the parameters of what's acceptable. Now, I know people in the past who've lost their dog and they are pressing an e-collar, especially years ago when they were like, they weren't very well put together. They didn't have the technology that they got now. And you can hear a dog screaming in the woods and they don't know where it is, or you can hear it screaming in the woods. And I've said to people, what are you doing? He said, I'm trying to get my dog back. You don't You don't use an e-collar like that. It's about education. It's about education. It's about educating someone. If your dog is out of sight and it's done you, you failed. The e-collar is there to stop the dog getting out of sight. Now, when I say out of sight, dog's got to go in cover, and the dog's got to be hunting in cover. And if you can't see the cover moving and you call the dog back and it's not there, it's out of sight. You might have to use the e-collar, but that's within seconds of losing the dog. That's not like I've lost my dog; it's gone completely. You're just zapping it, pressing the button to try and get the dog back because you're confusing the shit out of that dog, and that is just cruel. That is just cruel. And on a couple of occasions, I've been on shoots where the keeper allowed other people to train as well as me, and I've heard dogs screaming, thinking dogs caught up. And I've seen a dog in a field just jumping in the air, and instantly I know he's got an e-collar on, and someone's lost him, and they're pressing the e-collar because it says it works within half a mile. Freaking ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And what they need is the e-collar taken off the dog and sticking around their neck, and then when they're in fucking bed and they want to go to sleep, zap the shit out of them and wake them up suddenly, and don't give them an explanation why. So Steve said, I really enjoyed the last lot of video with yeah, and it's all about education. And Michael made a mistake today, and we'll show it. Now, why will we show it? We'll show it because it will teach other people why it's so important to get the timing right. If I'm going to hand you a tool, I want you to use it properly. But what I've said to Michael, I've said it's dead simple. If you don't turn up for the lessons, you ain't going to learn. But without the videos, you could forget what I'm showing you and get your timing wrong. You can go back and watch the videos and learn how to use it in a professional manner. Because, like I was explaining today to him, we don't want to stop the dog hunting, but you can use an e-collar to stop unwanted behavior. But we want the dog to hunt. So there's far more skill involved when using that e-collar. And I'll tell you exactly what happened today. And if you are not on Patreon, you ain't learning. If you're on Patreon, you'll see it, warts and all, and how we educate. Michael's dog sees a cockbird, goes straight into the cover after the cockbird. There's probably 15 to 20 foot of thick cover and then a busy road. And the dog goes into the cover after the cockbird, right? I say, blow the stop whistle. He blew the stop whistle and pressed the e-collar. What is the dog going to do? You blow the stop whistle and press the e-collar. Come on, tell me. Tell me. Come on, you're experts. What is the dog going to do? He's blown the stop whistle and pressed the e-collar. Come on, you're all Googling it, aren't you? You're all Googling it. Your videos and explanation of how to use e-collar are brilliant for me. You're dead right, Chris. Dead right. Well said, mate. It'll come back to you for security, won't it? But it'll come back to you if you've been using the e-collar to get the dog back to you when it goes after something. So you turn it up and you give the dog a negative. The dog then turns around and comes back to avoid the negative. If the dog's coming back, you take the pressure off the e-collar and the dog is coming back. So the dog is learning through association. And that's why it's so important. You can teach so many different disciplines with an e-collar. You can make gameplay with an e-collar, or you can use it as an enforcer, a pusher. Now, all these people telling you, oh, yeah, but if the dog can be seen to be in distress, then you could be prosecuted. Well, it's knowing how to use the tool. It's knowing when to use the tool. And Chris Wheelhouse has got it right. The dog will come back to you for security. If you blow the stop whistle, you want the dog to stop. You don't want the dog to recall and break the stop. You're creating another problem, a different problem. You're creating confusion. And so it's so important that if he'd said, blew the stop whistle, and the dog had carried on hunting, you heard the dog still going through the cover, right? You then could have said, come here, and tapped him on the collar. The dog would have felt the stim and turned around and come back. You're not punishing the dog for not stopping. You're punishing the dog for not coming back. So it's the basic command that you give that dog. You do not want to create confusion. And that's where I said that you've got to be so careful. If you've got a dog that's smashing cover to pieces and is just a fucking out-and-out fucking chaser on birds, you could get away with turning that collar up in cover and getting him not to carry on chasing through cover. But if you've got a dog that doesn't really want to enter cover, but only enters cover when it sees a bird going through the cover, you could put the dog off going into cover because it could get false association. And the dog is going to pick up a false association if you blow the stop whistle and you hit the collar, because the dog is automatically going to want to return to you to turn off the pressure, come back to you for the security. And that's why it's so important. Now, where are those videos on the big wide world web? Where are they? Where are these gun dog trainers showing you this? Oh, they don't talk about e-collars, do they? Because they're scared they're going to upset people and people aren't going to follow them, and people are going to spread rumors about you and say, yeah, but because he's barbaric and he can't train a dog to start with and he's pathetic, he's just cruel. You've seen the standard of my dogs, and I haven't put e-collars on my dogs unless they've come to me being naughty dogs. Now, when I was 20 years old or 30 years old or even 40 years old, I could run a dog down and catch it and give it a taste of negative and say, don't do that. Not the tables. Carlos is bloody late. Sorry. He's such a polite chap, isn't he? So what I'm saying is I never needed an e-collar as a youngster. I never used an e-collar in a rabbit pen because I could get after a dog in a rabbit pen. In my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and even my 50s. But now I'm getting older, I've got to outthink the dog. How many older people have got that problem when it comes to getting after a dog? If that dog learns that that dog doesn't need to listen to you, that dog will do what it wants to do. I guarantee, whether it's a pacey dog or a plodder, they're still not listening to you. They work you out so clever. I can tell you that the wonderful thing about Michael's dog, Michael's made mistakes and he's going to make mistakes, but we need to make him make less mistakes. But he's not going to screw his dog up by making a couple of mistakes. But if he continues making mistakes, then he's going to confuse his dog completely, and the dog is going to be scrambled. And that's the simplicity of the Corleone way. The way that I have evaluated the e-collar in the last 20 years, where before I was against the e-collar, totally against the e-collar, thinking anybody who needs an e-collar is a freaking idiot, not realizing that as age catches up with you, is it a kinder tool than getting after the dog and giving the dog a taste of hell? Oh, can you say that in the big wide world web? Can you say you got after the dog and gave him one taste of hell and he never did it again? Oh no, you can't say that, can you? You get condemned. You get taken off the internet if somebody reports that and says he gave the dog a taste of hell. What is a taste of hell? A taste of hell to you might not mean the same as it means to me. But I guarantee you throw cheese and biscuits at the dog, you throw sausages, you tell the dog's a good dog, he ain't going to listen to you. He's going to do his own thing. So today, what I've been saying is when Michael's dog went into the cover voluntarily, we started being nice to the dog and saying, good dog, well done, get in, good lad, being friendly with the dog, because we're encouraging the dog to go in cover. We're not punishing the dog for going in cover. What we're doing is conditioning the dog that if you chase something when you're not supposed to be chasing, you will feel the negative through the e-collar, and you'll know very quickly, turn around and come back. It's either a taste of hell or a taste of cheese, says Steve. Yeah, taste of cheese. And we see it all the time, don't we? We see it on the internet. They all want to talk like, I love me, I cuddle me dog, kiss me dog, grope me dog. Oh, I'm scared of me dog. I better get rid of this one because it's too hot. It's not too hot. I've never met a too hot dog yet. Chris says a Vindaloo. Yeah, a hot curry, a hot dog. A chicken Vindaloo tastes well, not to an Indian, Chris. Not to an Indian. Vindaloo is not very hot to an Indian. Steve will be able to tell you about the Indians. So what I'm saying is these videos are fascinating, but guess what? They're not going to a big enough audience, are they? Who thinks that these videos that I'm doing is not going to a big enough audience? Who thinks they should go worldwide? Come on. I'm listening. I'm here. Everyone go to bed? Is there a delay on here or something? Dude, there's a hell of a delay on here, isn't there? Hey? So, is anybody... I think they've all gone to bed. Are they watching something on telly or something? I'm just talking to my freaking self. The first person's... Oh, freaking hell, Karen's here. He's the only one. Everyone else is not there. I've bored them shitless. They've gone to bed. Do you know what? I reckon they're just typing with each other. So everyone says yes, but too many won't see it for what they will, and they'll be offended. Exactly, Graham. Ideal world, yes, they should be broadcast, but the snowflakes won't be able to handle it. Exactly, Chris. Exactly. And that's the whole point, isn't it? We are creating a society of absolute freaking wet wipes. We are creating a society of wet wipes because this dog is going to have a wonderful life. Get it right. It's going to have a wonderful life. Don't get it right, you're going to leave it at home or take it for a walk where there's no game. Now, Mr. M has said it chases deer. He's concerned about cattle. Well, with this tool on, the e-collar, you can put that dog in situations that if it goes wrong, you've got a get out of jail card. You've got a tool that is going to get that dog back to you, right? If you've taught it right in the first place, how to switch the pressure off. If you just put a collar on a dog and take it out and then zap the shit out of it when it goes wrong, it could fight or flight. It could be snapping in midair at its neck because the pain's hit on the neck. Especially if you've not got the right level and you don't know what you're doing. And I've seen it. And then I've seen dogs become aggressive. Somebody goes to grab the dog because it's been a collar on its neck and not used properly. The dog sees it as a threat, turns and bites. I've seen it. You can create a dangerous dog if you don't know how to use the collar right. And this is the problem with society. They don't want to listen. They don't want to learn. They don't want brilliant videos put up so they can have a rational debate about, wow, that worked. Why did you do it like that? Can I question that? There's nothing wrong with questioning it, is there? There's nothing wrong with questioning it. But what I'm saying is these videos would help so many people with a dog that's completely out of control when it gets on game and it says stuff you. Once a dog's done it a number of times and done you a number of times, then the dog is going to push those boundaries because it's far more exciting to be hunting away from you, having fun chasing game. As simple as that. But if you've got a dog that is all around your feet, you don't even have to use the whistle because it hunts really close with you when it's sterile, when there's no game there. But as soon as you get game there, the dog goes up the gears and says, bye-bye, not listening to you. Now you've got a problem. You're better off having a dog that's not listening to you without game there and with game there, because you can condition that dog quicker than you can condition a dog who's learned to work the system and play the system to its own advantage. So I think that this set of e-collar videos and the sequences that we're going to be training in will help people understand how different dogs are, how some dogs will carry emotional baggage the same as humans. Some dogs might make a noise, a slight noise, a yip, when you tap them with a collar in an unsterile environment and the collar's up too high. That doesn't mean you're hurting the dog. That means the dog's pain threshold is a lot less than some other dogs. So that's why we work on what level to use with each dog, the same as people. Like Michael jumps when he feels the collar on a low stim. But Michael doesn't know, because Michael thinks I'm a tough motorcycle rider. But Michael doesn't know I'm a bigger baby than Michael. Sue can confirm that, because in the bedroom department, I can't stand pain. Well, she loves it. She loves it, but I can't stand. I mean, I find it difficult. I cannot wear those pegs on my nipples for more than about 2 minutes. So pain threshold is not the same as some people would think. And yet, if I was scrapping with someone, it don't bother me. In my early days, if I was scrapping with someone, because my adrenaline was up there, it wouldn't bother me. So I've had to teach Sue in the bedroom, she's got to get my adrenaline up there before she puts the nipple clamps on. And that's exactly the same as the Michael situation. Michael doesn't know how much I enjoy the e-collar. Shock if you hold on to it and test yourself. My pain threshold for that is shit. It's low. I've seen mates and farmers in the field will go and hold the electric. Who does it? I bet you there's someone in here who can do it. They can just go over to the electric fence, hold on to it, and grab someone, and the freaking person next to them shites themselves and jumps 10 feet in the air. They're the one passing the fucking current to them. Come on. There must be people in there who does that. I've been on shoots many a time where there's always one in there who can hold an electric fucking fence and touch somebody else and freaking find it really funny. I'm like an absolute pussycat. I freaking jump out my skin if I get a tickle. If I get a tickle of static electricity off the freaking car door or car window, I freaking jump like a bitch. Can you say that these days? Jump like a bitch? Are you allowed to say that? I don't know if you can you? Because some bitches are harder than dogs. We don't want to upset the bitches, do we? Or the dogs. Can you say that?
Absolutely no idea in this point.
No, we don't know whether you can say that in this day and age. It's like, you know,
absolutely no.
Could be in real trouble, can't So Julian says people live in their own world and often don't want honesty and reality check on what is required to change the mindset and that of their dog. Investment in time and commitment. Exactly, Jules. And the thing is, if they watch the whole videos instead of just taking the video and editing it and just putting up the bit where the dog doesn't look happy because it's had a negative, they're not realizing how many times I'm saying in the video, turn it down, turn it down, turn it down. Now, I'm not turning it down because I'm a snowflake and I want to give the dog the right amount of chastisement. I want the dog to work with the minimum of pressure. But the dog is going to be under pressure if it's pushing boundaries. That's part and parcel of life. And that's exactly what we've got in today's society. They're saying you can't put kids under pressure. They've just taken mobile phones off kids in schools. And the teachers have said, we cannot believe that the kids have accepted it and cope with it as well as they have. If you set rules and you stand by those rules, and there'll be a negative if you break those rules, then you're showing leadership. That doesn't mean you're cruel. But what if the kids all turned around and said, you're freaking having a laugh? We've been coming to school with our phones for the last 3 years. We're hooked on our phones and we can't concentrate unless we've got our phones. Are you going to let the kids dictate to you? Or are you going to say to the kids, we've taken the phones off you and all of a sudden your behavior has improved. You've now set a precedent for every school in the country. We should take the freaking phones off them because you've allowed us to do it. And it's actually showing you get better concentration when the kids haven't got the phones. Now, you know it yourselves, don't you? How often are you out and you have to look at your phone? It goes bing, you have to look at it. It's all about focus. Exactly, Keith. Kenneth, not Keith. Kenneth. That's a new one, isn't it? He's on there early, hasn't he? So he says on here earlier, I know a guy who uses an e-collars and still doesn't listen. So what are you saying, Kenneth? The dog doesn't listen? Or the guy don't know how to use the e-collar? Or the guy doesn't listen? I don't know. I know a guy who uses an e-collars and still doesn't listen. Come on, tell us more.
False.
What? Freaking hell. What? What are you on about?
I don't listen and the dog don't
The
listen.
guy don't listen, dog don't listen. That's a great partnership, isn't it? So I'm not a disciplinarian I'm not an obedience trainer. I'm a gun dog trainer. But what is the golden rule? Let's see how many of you in here, there's 20 people on here, it says. Let's see. I don't think some of you can type because you're not coming back to me. I'm not being rude. Perhaps you haven't got access to that. You're just listening to me. But I want as many people as possible, and there's 20. Let's see how many replies we get. What is the golden rule if you give a command? Come on, fast as you can. Come on, quiz night. What is the golden rule if you give a command? Come on. Come on, who's going to win this? It's fucking slow, isn't it? I wonder if I'm being monitored and I'm 15 minutes after time. Well, Steve Pace is the winner. Oh, Susan, stop it. That sounds filthy. It's to be followed through. Stop it. Honestly, Steve Pace, she just followed you, Steve, there, didn't she?
No, I was waiting when you beat me. You can take that. I've heard that so many times.
Exactly, Chris. It's got to be carried out without having to keep repeating yourself. If you're having to keep repeating yourself, it's not working. So technically, if you ask the dog to do it, Graham says, do it. So you're enforcing something. Oh, you're freaking enforcing that on the dog? So why would you be saying to the dog, sit up, you put your hand up, you move away from the dog, and you're going, stay, 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 stay. How many of you heard that this week, last month? Stay, 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 stay. Going back to the dog and stroking it, and then it moves. Fucking hell. Don't it drive you freaking mad? Don't it drive you mad? You've got to put the dog in a situation to go wrong to put it right. If I say to the dog, sit up, and the dog sits up, I move away from the dog, I'm not going to be saying stay. Why? Because I give a command, and if the dog moves, I put it right. It doesn't mean I've got to be cruel, but I put it right. How many people do you see nagging the shit out of the dog, and the dog takes no notice? Say it once. If it moves, put it back on the spot. Exactly. But how many people don't work on that principle? They don't go on that principle. nag the dog like crazy. That is without real temptation. And then they think they're going to take it on a shoot. If you can't make that dog sit and you can't walk away from that dog with your hand up, I'll give you a hand up, I'll let you have that. You should be able to do it without your hand up. But once you've taught the dog, you should be able to do it without hand up. Sit up, walk away from the dog. You should be able to spin around and just carry on walking, and the dog shouldn't move, shouldn't shuffle or nothing. Now, as a professional, all dogs will move, and so you keep an eye on the dog. If the dog moves, starts to creep, you put the dog back. You have every right to put the dog back. If you've taught the behavior and the dog knows what you want it to do, and then the dog is pushing the boundary, pushing the situation, then you can use some discipline. You can use some obedience, right? So many that one step slide, and then one step becomes two, and then three, and then it's no shit at all. Exactly. And that's what happens. And I see it so many times. And somebody says to me, my dog's not stopping on a flush. Okay, let's take it out in the field. Blow the stop whistle. Why hasn't your dog marked his backside? Why isn't the arse on the floor? Well, I haven't flushed nothing. Well, if you can't get it to park its arse without flushing something, how the friggin' hell do you think you're going to stop it when it does flush something? Now, am I being too direct? Or am I not beating around the bush and I'm not freaking creating freaking like hours and hours and hours of freaking customer coming to you and you've not. Chris Wheeler says, one of the best things I took away from training with you, Chris, was watching myself on the videos as it highlighted all the mistakes I was making. Do you know what, Chris? I love you said that. I'm glad you said that because I've had that today. And I'm not talking behind his back, everybody. I'm not. We know who Mike is, and it's not. He's not. Nobody doesn't know other than Michael, who we're talking about. No one really knows him unless you're in a group. At the end of the day, he came in this morning and said, "Fuck no, don't I look a freaking idiot on the video?" Right? How many times have I heard that? How many times have I heard that? Oh, fucking hell, I sound like I'm fucking maybe so. Oh, fucking hell. And I understand completely. Nobody wants to make themselves look silly. But my answer straight away was this: hang on, you might be really good at something that I'm not good at, but I'm dedicated with this, and I'm a perfectionist, and I want your dog to be right. So I'm picking you up for the simplest little things and noticing it and showing, get that right, put that right, and that will automatically go right, and you'll have a better dog. But I can see a difference in his dog, and improved vastly. And you might not think that, the people watching the videos, but the dog's improved. And he's had a few lessons with Steve, and there's definitely an improvement. The dog is keener on retrieving, the delivery's better, the stopping is better, the dog's more focused, it's not wanting to do its own thing quite so much, but it's still not right. But you've got to put it in a situation to go right to put it right. And if you've got the facilities to do that, you're laughing. If you haven't got the facilities, you've got to borrow or steal. I used to drive around the outside of an estate, a massive estate, looking for the odd bird in the field. Used to get out the car in the lane, get the dog out, go in the field, send the dog for the retrieve, ask the dog to stop. When the dog didn't stop, get out after it. When the bird takes off, drag it back, then keep doing that until the dog's listening to you. Everybody's got the access to all the gear, but a lot of people got all the gear and no freaking idea. That's the difference. So if you're not from a wealthy background, you've got to do it on a shoestring. If you're from a wealthy background, you can go, here, here's my dog, try it for me. That doesn't mean that dog's going to stay like that if you don't keep the training up. No way. It doesn't matter how well I train the dog. 6 months down the line, that dog's not going to be doing and be as sharp as when I let you have it and you paid me your mega money for the professional trainer to train it. But I've learned over the years, you have to train the person even though you train the dog. Because if they're not replicating what you do, that dog will still push boundaries. It may take a whole season before the wheels fall off. But guess what? They will if the person is not enforcing what you want the dog to do. Now, that doesn't make you a dictator just because you're enforcing. Oh, it sounds like discipline. Or you can't enforce a child to go to bed before 11 o'clock because will go to bed when he's tired. No, they won't. They'll push the boundaries, and before you know it, it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. As a child, you have to make decisions for your child, don't you? Yeah, your child is growing up in your care. You have to make those decisions. I remember the £5 challenge, Kieran. Yeah, that was great fun, wasn't it? It was all part and parcel. And so, with me and Michael, you've seen humour. You've seen me having a laugh with him, because there's no point in being a miserable, grumpy old bastard. Oh, fucking hell, you ain't never going to get there. You ain't got a freaking clue. You're never going to make it. It's a challenge sometimes to get people 15% better than they are. Sometimes it's easy to get them 50% better than they are. But sometimes it's a chance to get them 15% better than they are. But they're better off 15% better than they are than they are. And at the end of the day, I've never shied away from anybody who's walked into my gate and says, help me, the dog. I've never looked at them and gone, listen, mate, you're wasting your time. You might as well fuck off now and save me money, save you money, and don't come back. The only time I've ever said to someone, don't waste my freaking time, is if they think they know everything and they're not listening. Anybody who puts the time in and the effort will get there. As soon as that. Rumour has it, Chris Upton bought his house in cash with green £5 notes. Karen, you're going to get the frigging tax man knocking on the door now, going, what the frig are they on about, the £5 challenge? Mr. Upton, you've never declared a £5 challenge in your life. I declare all my winnings. It's gambling association. It gets written down in a little book. Karen was useless. Got 10 quid off him. And then it says, Karen gave it to charity. Gave it to a charity shop.
Karen says, I think it must be Catherine's, on the first ever seminar we ever on the stop, our dogs were making vast improvements. He asked us all to split our dogs up so Jules could send his. All our dogs ran in.
Yeah.
we was all idiots. It's all part of it, and we don't laugh at anyone in our group. We embrace it and educate.
and that is the old importance, isn't it? You know, you think you've got your dog to a reasonable standard, and then that happens.
And that's why Chris come back and said, remember the £5 challenge.
Yeah. But do you know about the £5 challenge? What gives me a real buzz is when I lost the £5 challenge, because I didn't really lose it very often, and I'm a sore loser. I like winning. But when I did get beat and someone did prove their dog could do it, I was over the moon, absolutely over the moon. And I like those days just as much as, yes, Steve Pace, that's it, freaking bastard. There's one. He won a fiver off me, and I don't freaking forget. And he deserved it. He absolutely deserved it.
He wears that badge with pride.
And so you should, because if you put the effort in, then you deserve credit. You deserve the accolade of well done. And if you've got that, if I've said about you that you can train a dog to a standard as good as me, that doesn't mean every dog or you get problems with another dog, but that's because of my knowledge and understanding of dealing with a lot of problems. But when I turn around to you and say, listen, I couldn't have trained that dog any better than you have, I'm not being a bigot. You've trained that dog to a good standard. That gives me a real buzz. Now, it should give me a real buzz, shouldn't it? Because if it's not giving me a real buzz, it means I don't love my job. I don't enjoy what I do. Do I enjoy going out and having to tell someone 15, 20 times, no, don't do it like that. Do it like this. Do it like that. No, not like that. You're getting your timing wrong. Do it like that. Do it like that. It doesn't matter to me, because as long as we get progress and we get there, each person develops and learns at different levels. Mike said to me, he turned up in his car. He's a lovely chap. He's such a funny chap. Got a dry sense of humour as well. I had him lying on the couch. We'll put it up for the group. We won't tell you what was said until you see it in the group. It was so funny. I had him lying on the couch on my massage couch, and I was doing my psychology on him. I was you must listen to me, and it was so funny. And he got a sense of humor, and he joined in with it, and that's nice. But what I'm saying is, it's going to give me a real buzz watching him and his dog get it right. It's going to give me a real buzz that Steve can still work with him in a situation with game, knowing that they've got that control if they need it at the right moment. And that's not going to put the situation up shit creek. And that's really important. That's a great part of teaching people, is when you start to get things right and you see a smile on their faces. And that's exactly what it is. My first £5 challenge, I went wrong. The dog went wrong. Chris told me to get the dog back. Then he told me what to do, and I had success. Yes, so that's exactly right. But Julian's not the first person I've taught that. What I do is I let them go wrong. I show them what they're doing wrong. I then show them how to get the dog to the fall and get the retrieve, and you get success. And that's the whole point. And what we're talking about there, if you think you've got real good steadiness on your dog and you're suppressing it and you're not letting it get to the fall, the dog is never going to get as good as the dog that doesn't listen to someone but gets to the fall every freaking time and gets the bird. That's just evaluation if you think about it. Over the years, I've seen the better dogs at finding game are the ones completely out of control. They're well ahead of the beating line, but they're flushing everything. But out of control. The skill set is to have control. Still won't get a dog that will flush everything in front of it, make good ground treatment. But a dog that becomes good on runners is a dog that runs in. The skill set, if you think about it, is, well, let's reverse it. Let's teach the dog to run in, and then let's put the control in. And that's the Corleone way, if you think about it. To teach that dog to get to the fall and get that dummy launcher challenge, that £5 challenge, that long distance retrieve, was to let them get out there and have the confidence to go and build success with confidence. Success builds confidence. Even after an Upton bollocking during the training, we all would go to the pub and have a good laugh. Pierre was doing backflips on the pool table. Good times. Freaking Pierre was a boy, but yeah. I always remember Pierre. He's into martial arts, and we were up on the moor. And he's always fucking talking about his martial arts, and I've known him for years now. And he fell over one day and fell fucking arse over tip frontwards, and did a fucking forward roll and got straight back up and went, way! I thought, fucking hell, that was quick. So I said to him one day up on Bodmin Moor, I said, Pierre, put your hand up like that and just keep going backwards. Just keep going backwards. And I seen a stone behind him, and I knew he was going to hit the stone. And I fucking said to you, I go, keep going back a little bit more. And he went fucking arse over tip backwards. So you didn't see that part coming, did you? Actually, I've had a laugh with him over the years. I've had a laugh with him. But fit bloke for his age, I tell you. Fit lad for his age. Anyway, 57 minutes, 52 seconds. I think it started off really slow tonight. And I think we've had some good chat, but it's like in places it's been slow, isn't it? And it's hard sometimes sitting there waiting for people to answer a question. And I don't know if we got a massive delay. I think someone's watching us in case I say something and I trigger somebody and then they just blank me out and you never see me again. I end up in the salt mines in fucking Russia. Is that right? Siberia, isn't it? I don't know. Can someone have to tell me? So Stevie says, great night, bollocks to you all, and have a good week. And that's what I reckon. I reckon that you should all have a great week. Enjoy yourselves. It's getting cooler. It was a little bit too warm today when out training. We could have done with a cooler day, really. Next week, they reckon it's getting cooler. It's getting better for next week. Not being funny. A lot of people, they want good weather and they're moaning they haven't got good weather. Then we get it too hot. But when you're busy training, you want the weather right for the dogs. The dogs come first, don't they? So take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm actually going to go 30 seconds early tonight. I'm actually going to go 30 seconds early. I'm going to... 9:31 anyway. Oh, Sue says 9:31. So she says it's time. So bollocks, good night. Thanks for tuning in. And Be safe, everybody. And do not, if you've got a pager, freaking stick it outside in a bucket of water. Good night, all.